And then there's appearance. You shall wash your clothes and yourselves when in the presence of God. We might call that church clothes today. You know, when we're in the presence of God, when we're going to church and serve, we should look decent. I think that's what God means by this. We should look decent. Let them wash their clothes before they approach the Lord. Cross-dressing is forbidden. The woman shall not wear that which pertains to a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. Okay, I like that law. That makes me feel very comfortable. Here's one that's a little controversial. Men may not shave the hair off the sides of their head or their beard. I'm going to explain it and understand. There's no judgment on my part on this because it's kind of personal. But corners, it means an extremity, a corner, an end, or a side. Round means to strike with more or less violence. To cut down, that's how it's translated, to cut down. We are not to cut the side of the hair on our heads, so we're not to trim the sides of our hair. And mar means to batter, to cast off, to ruin. We are not to cut the sides of our beard. Okay? These are very popular today. That's why I say it might be offensive. I think this is an image of God's statute. We are made after His image. Okay? The spirit of that law today, the way I look at it, we should be well groomed. After all, we are created in God's image. We should not try to distort that image. So what I honestly think this is talking about is when we go crazy with our hair and change it up, we should just be groomed, neat, and normal. Now obviously I don't have a beard. I don't think this means you can't cut your beard. I think it means you can't shave it in different directions. Now, you'll find different interpretations. If you don't like mine, that's okay. That's the way I see it, and understand this is not one of those commandments that I would make a big deal about, but it's in the scriptures. So most people go to the Egyptians. They had that long goatee that they'd wear. And I don't like doing that where God would say, I don't like this because they're doing it that way and they're pagans. I like to put it as in, we're made in God's image, as a general like that. Let's look the way God intended us to look. And that's just the way I look at it. But, you know, this is very controversial. There's a lot of different opinions about it. I apologize if that's offensive to you, but that's the way I see it. Well, what are you going to do? I wanted to go through all the commandments in a study, and this is the way it goes. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. We're doing that a lot today. Okay? Tattoos and piercings all over the place. I'm a public school teacher. I see it in kids 12 years old. And it's like, what are you doing? I don't understand it. But again, I say it's the same thing. The appearance, we're made in God's image. You know, we should respect that. I don't know if your mind ever gets that way, but we should respect that. And, you know, you can just see the direction a nation goes by some of these statutes, where the people are going. Some people get caught up on the for the dead part, as if you shouldn't do any cuttings only for the dead, but it's okay to do it for anything else. I think that just happened to be the most common thing that they did, so that's why it's worded that way. But I think the implication is, you know, just anything. But again, that's controversial as well. Don't take it too personal. You can find a different understanding if you don't like that one.
Well, and it's talked about that the body is God's temple, and all that is just mutilating what belongs to God.
No, that's exactly the way I look at it. But you know, some people have said that means you can't shave your beard. But I'm obviously clean shaven. I don't think it means that. What I think it means is you can cut your beard off or you can grow a beard. But trying to shape and make it different, that's the way I get it just from looking at the scripture when it says the sides. And if you put a face up there and you start trying to draw and cut and do like it's describing, that's what you get, you know, in my opinion. So that's the way I taught it. But again, there are some. This is what I always tell people. The New Covenant says God's writing His law in our hearts. If you're not convicted about something, that means He's not writing it there yet. Don't worry about it. The only ones I'd be worried about are the ones that affect someone else, that cause a damage to someone else. That's the only one I'm going to call anybody on. But so if this doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. Some of these commandments are very difficult to accept at first. Please keep in mind that God has grace. If anyone's violated any of God's commandments, especially one that cannot be undone, such as tattoos, God provides grace. In fact, this might be that thorn in the flesh as Paul spoke of, to remind you of that grace for the rest of your life. You may not wear mixed fabric clothing, and I have a different opinion on this than most, but it's not necessarily offensive. If you've heard of Kirlian photography, it measures the electrical field of an object. Vibrational energy affects this electrical field. Did you guys know we have an electrical field? Everybody's electrical field varies. Vibrational energy affects this electrical field. Here's the difference. If you look at a cooked tomato versus a raw tomato, you can see Kirlian photography shows you their electrical field. The cooked tomato has been damaged. In 2003, Heidi Yellen did a study. She studied the human body, or she studied these electrical fields and came up with that the human body has a signature frequency of about 100. So somewhere around 100 is where our frequency should be. When our clothing is below 100, it damages our frequency. So if our clothing is below 100, like say 50 or 25, it's going to hurt our electrical field. This is a science we haven't studied much yet, so just bear with me for a minute. Synthetic fibers, polyester, nylon, these synthetic fibers, they're less than 100 every time. So you're going to hurt your electrical field every single time. Organic fibers are over 100. So if you're wearing an organic fiber, cotton or something like that, you're over 100, so you're helping yourself out. Mixed fabric. Anytime you mix any fabric, zeroes it out. So I understand this. It says, thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, such as woolen and linen. It's giving wool and linen as the example, because it's the most important one, because they have the highest frequency. But I think it applies to all. So if you take anything, if you think about America 100 years ago, everything was 100%. And you think about the way nations go, we're going away from God's law. Now all you find is mixed fabric. Rochelle and I have been working at getting to 100%. We always check the tag to make sure it says 100% every time. It's easy for a guy. It's really hard for women. It took her a lot longer to get to 100. I think most of our clothes is all 100% right now. And we do that. We think this is a health statute. Then I was going to show you wool and linen. They both have a frequency of 5,000. Do you see how that's a lot higher than our normal body frequency? It's used for the priesthood. And remember, the priesthood deal with the sick. A frequency like wool and linen will help you when it comes to your immune system and your healing capabilities. It should be used for healing today, I think. If you're having some sort of an illness, having a garment of linen or wool would be great to have. Do I think it's something we should wear every day? Well, you can. It's probably hard to find something all linen or make your whole wardrobe all linen. I know Chauncey's got a neat little white linen suit. But that's what I think this statute means. 100% fabric. But I also wonder, as I was reading her study, I wonder if I'm wearing mixed fabric every day, right, is mine going to be a lot less than someone who is mine consistently going to be less? Right. I don't know. And obviously, we don't know much about our electrical field. Right. The science hasn't studied it much, but I would connect that maybe to diseases like Parkinson or neurological diseases, stuff like that. It just makes sense. But there's literally no science to support one way or the other. I'm guessing it's probably a health statute.
Everybody has about approximately 10,000 volts of static electricity going through the body at any given time. When you diminish that electricity in any way, shape, or form, that electricity is the same electricity that's moving your thoughts. It's the same electricity that's moving your muscles that your body controls on. If you lose your electricity, you die.
Yeah. It's probably the same line of thinking with the reflexology and the oils. Things are traveling through your body, and we don't understand it today. I think they did back then. We always give these guys credit thousands of years ago, like they're not very bright. But I think in many ways they were smarter than us.
A lot of technology that got lost.
In many ways. You look at the pyramids, how they moved those stones, and we can't even do it today. Yeah. They weren't as dumb as we think. The fringe statute. This is the last one that might be... this one's not offensive, but my opinion's a little different. You shall make fringes in the borders of your garment. Okay? Strong's Dictionary. Quarters, it's an edge or extremity. So the edges of your garment, you're to make fringes. Fringe, it's the Hebrew word gadil. You notice how that's not the word tzitzit. This is not a tzitzit. In the sense of a twisting, it's a tassel or a festoon. The context of Deuteronomy 22. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but the first part is taking care of animals. It's a business statute. Then there's animal preservation, another business statute. Then there's negligence, more business statutes. Farming, more business statutes. And then all of a sudden there's this weird religious one about putting fringes on your clothing. I don't know if you see where I'm getting at, but I think this is a business statute. Here's why. The only other place this word is in the scripture calls it a chain work of wreaths. It's a chain, a woven chain work of wreath wrapping around something. Here's an ancient picture of the Hebrews, and they had their fringes wrapping all the way around their garments. If you think of how you find fabric, if you don't put a fringe on it, it's going to fray and fall apart. This makes it fit with all those other business statutes if you look at it as a business statute. God said to put a fringe around the edges of your garment because it's just good clothing manufacturing. This would be a fringe, although it's not as decorative, but that's a fringe. This is a fringe. These are fringes woven to hold the shirt together so it doesn't fall apart.
Is that like serging?
What's that?
Like a serger?
I didn't hear.
Like a serger.
Like a serger?
Serger is what?
You're probably talking sewing terminology, and I don't know sewing terminology.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's talking about hemming,
Yeah.
which is why in the New Testament it talks about the hem. It's translated hem. The Greek word that was used for this one in the Septuagint is translated hem when they talk about touching the Messiah's garment. Okay, there's a second one, I think. You shall place a ribbon of blue within the fringe. Numbers 15 has a totally different context. This is the word tzitzit. Speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make them fringes in the border of their garment. Borders is the same word. It's an edge or an extremity and something on the edge. Fringe is a floral or wing-like projection, a tassel or a lock of hair. The context of Numbers 14 through 15. Israel murmured against Moses. So they argued with Moses. Didn't like being in the wilderness. Israel wanted to stone Moses. So they were getting ready to kill Moses. God wanted to judge the people. He was going to strike them all dead. Just wipe them out. But Moses pleaded for him. And God said, I have pardoned according to your word, Moses. So you can sense God was disappointed. God gave Israel 40 years of wandering instead. So instead of wiping them out, God got soft and only gave them 40 years of wandering. Israel was defeated by the Canaanites. Then God explains the sacrificial system in Numbers 15. Numbers 15, 1 through 31 goes over the sacrificial system. Remember what we went over? It's a judicial system. It's a judgment. It's a judicial system. They find a man working on the Sabbath. And Moses judges him harshly and they stone him. And then God talks about tzitzits. God commands the fringes with the blue thread right after that stoning. This is not a basic clothing statute. Let's read. I'm going to read this twice and I'm going to put a different emphasis. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments. The word for fringes is tzitzit. It's a different word than the other place. Fringes in the borders of their garment throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue, and it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart, and after your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring. Here's the next one. All the blue is plural, all the red is singular. And the Lord spake unto Moses. He's speaking to Moses by himself, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, them, and bid them, the children of Israel, that they make them, the children of Israel, are to make fringes in the borders of their garments. The children of Israel are to do it, not Moses, the children of Israel. in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they, the children of Israel, put upon the fringe of the borders a riband of blue. And it shall be to you, singular, Moses, you, Moses, for a fringe, that you, singular, Moses, may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them in judgment when you're judging the children of Israel. Because you didn't do it in Numbers 14. And do them, and that ye shall seek, ye singular shall seek, not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go a whoring. If you look at it from singular and plural, I think you get a little different understanding. Let's put these two together real quick, just to understand, okay? We're to fringe the edges of our garments. I think that's just a business statute. It's just good clothing manufacture. It's right in the business chapter of the Bible. It fits contextually. But we're supposed to put a blue fringe or a tassel for a certain reason. What are tassels for when it comes to the judicial system? The fringe is the gadel, that's to hem up the edges of a garment. The tassels, a tzitzit, to remind our judges to keep God's commands. Tassels in court. Did you know that tassels have a history in court? Look at our flag. That's our United States flag. It's got red stripes, white stripes, and blue, right? Red, white, and blue. Are there any other colors on the flag?
Nope.
Sure there are. If you go into a courtroom, do you see the different colors? Gold tassels on the U.S. flag. Gold tassels on the U.S. flag in court. Tassels represent the admiralty jurisdiction. Tassels in court have always meant the jurisdiction of the court. Okay, I've had a really hard time tracing this out and proving it. But if you Google tassels in court and lawyers and tassels and all this stuff, tassels are everywhere in court. I was just reading something a couple of days ago. Lawyers commonly like to wear the shoes with the tassels on them. They're constantly wearing tassels. Here's what I suspect. Blue tassels on a citizen in court is a way to remind the judge that I'm judged under God's law. And in my mind, it fits the context of Numbers 15. It makes perfect sense to me. It just fits. Is it easy to prove? I don't know. But Jesus gave us the example. He wore them on the Sabbath. He wore them on holy days. And I think he would have worn them whenever he went to the temple or the courtroom. And I'll be honest, I've done it twice as a juror, and I got out of jury duty each time. I'm guessing... I don't think it had anything to do with my tassels as much as some of the other things I was bringing up.
Right.
They probably just didn't want me there because of what I was talking about. Who knows? But I've always believed Psalm 111:10, a good understanding of all they that do is commandments. I'm trying to do it the best I can.
Right.
I started 4 years ago wearing them the best I could, and I change them all the time. Do I think everybody needs to wear them? Not really. I honestly think it's for court. Holy days, Sabbath days. Honestly, the fringe, we all do that anyways. But I really think there's a connection here, but I haven't traced it as far as I'd hoped. I was really hoping to find the smoking gun on this, and I haven't found it. There's one in here that I wanted to touch on that people mix up. It says, "And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine hearts, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes." This is what the Pharisees wore on their head as a phylactery, and they wore them on their arms also. I didn't put this in my code pleading of the Mosaic Law. Here's why. If you study them historically, you'll find out that they were not worn by the common people. It wasn't something that was done except by the Pharisees at the time of Christ. Alfred Edersheim, in the Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, said it was not quite universal. He was talking about how it's hard to find any evidence for anyone wearing them but the Pharisees. You don't hear of anything but them in the scriptures. And finally, this last one from Alfred Edersheim also said, "It is remarkable that Aristes seems to speak only of the phylacteries on the arm, while Philo of those of the head, while the LXX, the Septuagint, takes the command entirely metaphorical." If you read the Septuagint, there's no way you would get this as a command. The words are clearly metaphorical. And here's what I think they mean. The word "lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul," that's the same word. If you take it literal, you're supposed to cut your heart open and write them on your heart and on your soul somehow. But the word's always used, the Greek word in the Septuagint is always used metaphorically. So I think what these are saying is you shall bind them on your head. That means your thoughts should be always on these. And they should be put on your hand. That means your actions should show forth your thoughts. I don't think we need to wear things on our head, although there's probably nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to address that under the appearance statutes anyways.